something I get asked quite often in my falconry career, really, and especially by novices, is why is my hawk, my falconry bird, so noisy? Why has it started making a lot of noise? Now, the answers can be quite simple, but really the answer is far more complicated than simple one-liners. It has so much to do with how the bird was reared and how you've trained the bird and how it lives day to day. So for instance, Zeus here, he's a golden eagle, he's 7 years old, and Zeus is fully parent reared. He was hatched as an egg underneath his mum. He lived from an egg with his parents in a large breeding aviary, and he was reared by his mum and dad. So Zeus here absolutely knows he's a golden eagle. He wasn't reared by a human, so he wasn't imprinted onto humans thinking humans are his parents. And yet, arc at him. And if you've watched any of our vlogs or films here at the Falconry Centre, you'll notice this is a background noise quite often. He doesn't make this noise hardly at all unless he can hear or see me. Over those 7 years, I've been training Zeus since he was 16 weeks old, and at 16 weeks old, his colour was different. He was dark chocolate brown with white patches on his tail and wings, but he was this big because a golden eagle is pretty much finished growing at just 12 weeks old. So at 16 weeks old, we started our training. He was nervous of me. I'm a strange creature. I'm a predator, forward-facing eyes, and he knew he was a golden eagle, and he knew I was a lot bigger than him. Over time, Zeus has started vocalising or talking to me whenever he can hear me or see me, getting my attention. Now in the summer, when he's really fat and we don't do anything with him, he just chills out and he molts those lovely feathers here. It takes a lot of calories to grow these huge eagle feathers, and we just fatten him up and leave him to it. And he still talks to me, but the volume is lighter and quieter because, a bit like a slob, doesn't really want to do anything, so having me around isn't a great thing, but he'll just chatter away to me quietly. Now he's getting ready to become in his hunting, his falconry condition. He's been on a diet now for a month, regulated diet, and his exercise has gone up. So we're getting him leaner, we're getting him fitter and stronger, his muscles are building, they've gone a bit flabby, and the volume has gone up. Now he doesn't make that sound when I'm not here at the Falconry Centre, but if he hears me or sees me, it's constant. It's not about calling for food with this guy, but it is about food in a sense, because he talks to me and calls me over because he's basically saying, come on, take me out. I want to go flying, because for him flying means the possibility of catching a really big hot dinner and eating it. So to him, he's formed such a close bond with me that his vocalisation is all about, come on, let's go and do something together, because that's when I get my exercise, and more importantly, I get the chance of catching a big meal. So kind of food related, but more to do with our bond and our relationship. So I'm going to take the hood off, I'm going to let him fly down there to a bit of food, and we'll call him back. So one reason your birds of prey that you work with and fly can start becoming noisy is just because they've formed a bond with you and they just want to be with you, and that's the best part of their day. So if they've sat around for a little while, they're going to start calling if they see you or hear you, almost out of excitement, so they can crack on and do what it is they want to do: fly, hunt, get their food. Reason number two, come on. So reason number two your bird of prey can be excessively noisy is because it's a hand-reared food imprint, and that's the main reason people have birds that are incessantly noisy, birds of prey, and it's a very complicated issue. So in a very basic term, you've hand-reared a bird of prey, or the breeder has, and it's been openly fed by a human from his hand. So in the bird's mind, it's a complete imprint. That means it's imprinted on the human. It believes 100% it's a human, and it believes that human is its parent figure and brings it the food. So it grows up like any young fledgling or chick bird of prey, or even bird would, calling to its parent every time it sees a parent for food. And it'll do that even if it's not hungry, because at the end of the day, it might have competition in the nest, and he or she who shouts loudest generally gets the most food in the bird of prey world. So It'll call at you when it sees you, oh, feed me, feed me, feed me, feed me, constantly, just because it doesn't want to miss out on the chance of any food. Now, once you start training that bird, and just like in the wild, then it's losing its puppy fat, getting it building muscle, its appetite increases, and it'll call louder because it wants you to feed it. If you observe peregrine falcons, let's say, at that kind of nesting fledgling age, they constantly scream and attack their parents for food if the parents have any food. They don't want to become independent and have the hardship of hunting themselves. They want to scream and even attack their parents to get them to feed them. So you've now got that problem because it's your baby. And for a falconry bird, a hunting bird, the best chance you've got of keeping that bird quiet is for it to be out catching its own food almost on a daily basis, because then it becomes independent. But if you're flying something like Wurzel the bald eagle here, you don't have that luxury. He's a display eagle. He always comes to me for food, and he always sees me as the provider of food. So in a way, although he's maturing, a bit like a dog, he remains slightly babyish, as always seeing me as his parent and his food provider. And the volume with the food imprint increases when it's lunchtime, because it's really hungry, and it decreases a little bit if the bird's fat and molting in the summer doing nothing at all. But generally, you can have a bird, certainly until it reaches maturity age. So this guy here, he's 3, he has quietened down, even though his lifestyle hasn't changed. And by the time he's 5 or 6, I expect him to be quietened down again because he's fully mature. So although he still sees me as a food provider, he's naturally matured, and that should quieten him down a bit. The Chilean blue eagle buzzard here at Icarus Falconry was the noisiest screaming bird of prey I've ever met. Incessant when it saw its handler, its falconer. That bird now makes no sound at all, really ever, because it's just grown up mentally anyway. Never goes hunting, but it's still grown up. So a food imprint, a bird that's hand-reared, fed from the hand by a human, is often the worst kind of noisy falconry bird, because these birds are incessant when they scream, and none of our birds sing like canaries and make lovely sounds. It's always quite obnoxious sounds from a human's point of view, screaming or screeching. Let's give them a fly anyway. Come on. Another possible source of noise in your falconry bird can be completely exterior. So it can be nothing to do between the relationship of yourself and the bird that you're actually training and flying. It can be to do with what the bird's perceiving elsewhere. So for instance, aggressive sounds or warning sounds. So birds can often call out when they see a falcon, red coyote or buzzard soaring high overhead that you might not even be able to see in the blue sky. So high above, your bird can see clearly that bigger bird of prey up there and will send out a warning call. It can be an aggressive response, an aggression call that's kind of warning you actually to keep away, or something to keep away. Maybe it can see a neighbour doing something in the garden further down the road that you can't see. Maybe it can see a cat prowling along the hedgerow or the fence line in your garden that you haven't noticed. It could be something that's repetitive. Maybe the neighbour lets their dog out at the same time every day, but you don't know, it's behind the hedge. But your hawk can see through the hedge gaps and it knows it's there and it doesn't like it. So you can ask yourself, why is it making this horrendous noise? I can't see any reason whatsoever. Have a listen to Zara. She's a really aggressive female harrier. We're about to take her out to fly her. Have a listen to her and the aggressive response. We're going into her aviary, which is her territory, if you like. She's worked with me for years and years. Anyone, including me, that goes in there gets treated with the same kind of noise, even when she can't see me. Just have a listen. Sounds like a wailing banshee. Can you hear that, Georgia? It sounds cross, And it's kind of a cross noise, but it's just a noise. She's just warning you, me rather, or anyone else. If anyone else goes in there, they're liable to get attacked. She's that aggressive around her territory. But with me, it's still a warning. I'm the boss in here. Just beware. Zara. Zara. Now, that could be a noise your hawk's making in the garden when you're not in sight and you don't know what it is. Check around. See what the neighbours do. See what's around the hedgerow. See what's above you in the sky or in the trees. Sometimes your birds are noisy from a completely exterior sort of source of their attention, if you like. Stay tuned for fact 4. Now, Zara the Harris hawk there, she was making a sound, really it's a warning sound, and that could have been just because anyone or anything was entering her personal space there. So completely exterior causes of that sound. Now another reason, the sound is driving me mad. Another reason your trained bird can make a sound is because it's not just an imprint and maybe a food imprint, it can still make a lot of noise even when it's completely not hungry and not even focused on food, because there can be another reason an imprinted bird of prey will talk to you. It's not food motivated, it's motivated by love or the desire to breed. So as an imprinted bird of prey matures, it will then not only see you or see you as a parent figure, it switches that as maturity and the hormones build, it switches its focus on you as well, sort of combined, as a mate. It absolutely believes, if you work with it on a daily basis, especially if nobody else does, it believes you're its mate, and it doesn't matter if you're both males, it will still think you're the opposite sex. And it'll get a bit fruity. So if not all the time, certainly during that bird's natural breeding season, it will be noisy to get your attention, and if you like, singing to you. We think of things like songbirds singing, and they do, and it's beautiful. Birds of prey don't make nice sounds really, but they still do their best singing to attract a mate, many of them. So Spot here, he's 18 years old, and he'll talk to me when he's feeling a little bit fruity, and it can be a loud noise because whilst hardly any owls actually say twit twoo, the tawny owl does, 2 of them do, many owls screech and hoot, and Spot here will often hoot to get my attention, to call me into his aviary. He's in the mood for love, and that hoot is quite nice. But again, if you live with neighbours, they don't necessarily want to hear your owl or your peregrine falcons calling to you day and night. Let's see if he'll make any sound at all. Ooh. 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 So how about that? Ooh. 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 Not a long performance today, but there you go. Some owls speak far louder than what the spotted eagle owl does, and again, it can be an irritation to yourself, or especially your neighbours. A noise nothing to do with food imprinting, all about love, calling for a mate. Fact number 5 coming up. Another reason that your falconry hawk can be very, very noisy indeed is because you're, especially if you're a novice, because obviously you're still learning a lot as you go along. Now, if your bird is too hungry, then of course it's going to be noisy when it sees you, even if it was fully reared by its parents, because every time it sees you, it's hoping desperately that you're going to give it some food. Our falconry birds need to be really well fed on a really good quality diet. We're asking them to be athletes, to be as fit and as strong and as good at flying, really, as their wild counterparts. And part of being an athlete is a really good diet. Not obese, not overfed, but fed the right amount and good quality food. If you are only judging your bird's performance on its weight and its body mass condition, you're missing a trick for sure, because the weight of the bird changes throughout its training and throughout its lifetime. Don't be fooled into thinking the first day that it flew to you free is the weight that bird needs to be for the rest of its life. Sometimes you need to tweak their appetite a little bit to motivate them and to teach them something, how to do something, and once they do that, their weight can very often be far increased to perform the same task. So weight is always fluid throughout your bird's life and throughout the year. A lot of people are getting caught out, a lot of novices at this time of the year in probably in America, but certainly in the UK, the seasons have changed. It's gone from ridiculously hot, too hot, hot nights where the birds' bodies are using nothing to keep warm. They can almost live on fresh air, to now the daytime temperatures dipping and the nighttime temperatures have crashed. Those birds need a lot more food just to maintain their condition, regardless of what they want to be doing during the daytime. So monitor the weight. If the bird's performing well, increase the weight gradually. If the bird's performance tails off, maybe just cut it back a little bit. But a bird that's waiting for you to come home from work at the same time every day, bored all morning because it hasn't seen you and is too hungry, of course it's going to start vocalizing. It's going to start reverting to being a baby, calling desperately for food. That's not how falconry should be managed. So keep an eye on the weight and understand weight control of those birds. It's just one tool in judging your bird's overall condition. It doesn't matter if you use old-fashioned balance weights, which are absolutely superb, or £15 from Amazon digital Salter scales. They're spot on and brilliant. It doesn't matter, as long as those scales weigh increments accurately. It doesn't matter if the scales are out by a pound. As long as it weighs accurately in increments and you're just weighing one bird at a time, it doesn't matter that the scales are even accurate when they start. It matters that they're accurate daily in increments. But for sure, a darn good set of weighing scales is one way to judge your bird's condition. Don't be lulled into fixating on a set weight for your hawk. Because once you trigger that baby response to scream for food because you've unwittingly made that bird too hungry, that's a habit that stays pretty quick and sticks fast. Hope you've enjoyed that. It's an incredibly complex issue, as is weight management actually of birds of prey. Read, learn, listen, do your research, but one thing for sure, once birds of prey start getting noisy for whatever reason, it's a habit that's incredibly hard to break, and only two things usually break that habit. Becoming independent by catching plenty of game for themselves, and time as they mature naturally and become a mature bird of prey. Good luck. My best advice is don't let the noise start in the first place.